The basketball world has a tendency to assume that past a certain age, development is limited. You are who you are.
He is too old.
But occasionally, we see things from a player that surprise us. This appears to be true of the 26-year-old Julius Randle. Randle is known to some as Beyblade for reasons that we won't go into, but as of 2021, he's known to everyone as an NBA All-Star, and for the first time. And I want to take a look at how he's done it. Year 2 of Blue and Orange Julius has been special because it's featured an all-out offensive glow-up. This is partly due to the fact that he's playing more minutes and enjoying a career high in touches, but he's the focal point of the Knicks offense, and that has spurred other career highs in points, rebounds, assists, and box plus minus. But most impressive and surprising, quite frankly, has been the shooting. Randle long had an appetite for perimeter destruction. He just lacked the consistency to eat. Over the past 4 seasons, from 2016-17 to 2019-20, 220 NBA players attempted at least 500 threes. Among those players, over that period of time, only Giannis Antetokounmpo shot a lower percentage from 3 than Julius Randle. Letting Randle hoist threes was considered something of a win, but that conversation has shifted. Through the first 42 games of this season, he has been dramatically better. He's shooting 40.8% from 3 on 4.6 attempts per game, and he's creating more of them for himself than ever before. And it's not just beyond the line. Randle has been better at the free throw line, and he's shooting better in the mid-range on shots that he's taken consistently throughout his career. He's just hitting more of them. For a downhill player with some ability to create for others, adding consistent shooting is like adding oxygen to a fire. It causes their entire offensive game to burn hotter. And this has been true for Julius Randle in a number of areas. At 6'8" and 250 pounds, Randle's quickness and relentless motor are assets for him around the basket, but he's not especially long or flexible for his size, and this can be a challenge. He's much better when he's able to create separation out in space. Give him room to make one quick move and he can burn you. But put him in tight space against set defenders who are big and athletic, and it can be tricky for him to be elusive or athletically overwhelming when finishing against pressure. Randle can still score at the rim, whether it be in post-ups or rolling to the rim. It's just that he's less predictable or dependent on those things. On average, in the past 5 seasons, 64.3% of Randle's points came in the paint. This season, that number is way down to 36.3%. This has affected the way the teams play him. There's very little reason to close out hard on a 29% three-point shooter. You hang back and concede that. But if those shots are going to consistently go in, it changes the dynamic, which leads me to the second perk of his improvement: uphill gravity that creates more frequent opportunities to drive and survey a moving defense. This has been the most productive driving season of Randle's career. He's embraced a sharing mindset, but he's also been in a better position to create, and I cannot emphasize this enough. In the past few seasons, the Knicks have sorely needed creation.
Because the Knicks get no assists. Because the Knicks have blown some picks. Because the Knicks get no assists. And they'll suffer for life.
Okay, I'm mostly kidding about the suffering part, but I am dead serious about the passing part. New York is 29th in the league in assists and potential assists, last in the league in secondary assists, and 29th in catch and shoot points. It is a struggle. Randle isn't a world-class playmaker, and he still does have a tendency to over-pursue his own offense and miss shooters, but he can still find people in a variety of ways, and that keeps New York from sliding into a full-blown shit show. Lastly, this added shooting expands the types of lineups in which he can be used. When it comes to spacing, it is very tough to put a poor shooting big man on the floor when Mitchell Robinson and Nerlens Noel both fit into very tight offensive parameters. It's hard to pinpoint exactly how or why any of this improvement has happened, but I have my guesses. Surely I'm not breaking news to you when I say that organizational stability has been something of a challenge for the Knicks in the past decade. In the past 10 seasons, they have gone through 8 coaches and 4 GMs. Now, the hiring of Tom Thibodeau was the highlight of New York's offseason, and it appears to have done a lot to bring cultural accountability, most noticeably on the defensive end. These Knicks have their offensive issues like we've talked about, but they consistently battle and defend their asses off. They're 5th in total points per possession allowed. On the surface, Tibbs and Randle seem made for one another. Randle has a reputation as a tireless worker, and Tibbs is, well, his intensity is the stuff of legend. This is also the first time that Randle has played on a roster where he is the implied primary offensive option. During his lone season in New Orleans, he was an oddly fitted third option behind Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday. And think about some of the comical rosters that Julius played on in LA. For 2 consecutive seasons, he played in a rotation with Lou Williams, D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, and Nick Young. As exciting as Randle's growth has been, the infatuation period of any relationship will only satisfy for so long. New York's front office will have to prove they're savvy by making a concerted effort to add as much playmaking and scoring as they possibly can to support their keeper pieces. Emmanuel Quickley has surprised everyone. He didn't surprise me, but I didn't come here to brag. RJ Barrett still has the potential to become a good NBA player with the right pieces flanking him, and it's just hard to find guys like Mitchell Robinson. There are some franchises around the NBA who, during their existence, have seen very little joy as it pertains to winning, but none of these cities are as central to the history of basketball as New York. When it comes to expanding the individual lexicon of the game as we know it, there is not another city on the planet that has contributed more, so it seems cruel that the cradle of innovation and self-expression in basketball would simultaneously be a dungeon of fandom desperation and depression for its natives. Belief can be the seed of despair. The schedule does get harder from here for the Knicks, and it's always possible that Randle comes back to earth a little bit. For that reason, it might be wise to avoid getting carried away. Lord knows a near 500 record that's heavy in wins against bad teams in the 6th spot in the Eastern Conference isn't exactly reason to start throwing parades or to name your dog Tibbs, although I would. But there is a big difference between being aimlessly terrible and scrappily optimistically okay. In that space between those two states of being, New Yorkers have savored the chance to be optimistic by latching on to Julius Randle and this funky Knicks bunch with their whole hearts. After what they've been through, can you blame them? I certainly can't. Let me know if you agree.